God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Finley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Or in this case,
Black God will get you for that, Florida. Florida.
Yes.
So today we watched Maude and The Radical, which premiered on October 10th, 1972. And
Don't we want to tell everyone who we are?
oh, of course we do. My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by the fabulous, enigmatic, dazzling, glamorous, sophisticated Toni Homeperm.
Oh my! Go on. No, go on, Tom.
I'm not going. Absolutely not. You only get one. You only get one compliment the episode, and that's the end.
darn.
But yes, today we watched Maude and The Radical, which premiered October 10th, 1972. And what a fun episode it was.
This was like just the epitome of Maude.
Yeah.
The wanting to be the liberal, the fighting against injustice, but at the same time
doing it in the wrong way.
At the same time, wanting to maintain her social standing and middle classness, I guess. So I mean,
it's honestly one of my favorite episodes.
It was a great episode.
It really is.
It really was.
It opens with Florida and Walter getting into an argument because Walter is eating the hot hors d'oeuvres for this party that Maude is throwing for a Mr. Jim Chambers.
Who was a black militant
liberal leader, yes. And it just... You automatically know it's going to be a batty episode. Because the way that Carol was like walking around, her body language is very like, this is going to be nuts.
Yes.
It's just going to be nuts. Like the way that all of the characters were acting just made you think that there was going to be some type of foolishness going on.
And there was.
And there was plenty of it.
Yes.
So Maude is planning this party where she's having these liberal leaders come in who are very well-to-do, very loaded. Loaded was definitely a term that was
because
used.
It's a fundraising party.
It's a fundraising
that
party
she has not told the invitees it is a fundraising party, which is a very important
important point to make.
To keep in mind.
So the episode does continue with Florida and Walter getting into an argument.
Yes.
And Florida basically saying, just stay out of my kitchen and stop eating the hot hors d'oeuvres because they're for the party.
She was gonna, chop off his
scooper.
His scooper.
Because Walter had said, a meatball was going to fall off the table,
right.
And I just wanted to scoop it up. And Florida says, you come into my kitchen once more, and I'm going to chop off your scooper.
Yes.
So the episode continues with Walter asking Carol how Maude's doing, because Maude is frantic.
Yes.
Trying to get herself prepared, trying to get all of these things happening at once. And she has a million details to take care of. And Carol was like, she's upstairs putting her eyelashes on again. So she'd been putting her eyelashes on consistently because obviously Maude wants this party to be a success. And this was one of many parties that the Finleys have hosted. Because there have been Christmas parties for Finley's Friendly Appliances.
Right.
There have been, parties after elections. There have just been a number of parties, which I think was also a very big thing to do in the 70s.
In the 70s, yes.
Have a lot of dinner parties.
That was the thing. People, it's not like today. People don't really socialize with their neighbors the way people did back in the 70s, especially in those sort of mid to upper middle class areas where it was a thing where people would get together and they have these, they'd have these cocktail parties and things like that. It was just, that was the thing to do.
Yeah. It was considered social events. We don't have those here in this day and age. The social events happen at the bar.
I don't even know my neighbors. I really don't.
I only have the one neighbor next to my house. That's it. And We don't invite them over.
Right.
It's just something that you don't do, especially in the times of COVID.
Yeah.
It is.
But even before then.
I mean, there's just no.
Yeah. No.
It's just not the thing to do anymore.
I think it's because now I feel like it's because in most households, everybody's working.
True.
Because say back in like the earlier 70s, typically the wife did not work, and the wives sort of made these social networks. Now we have social media. Back then it was a social network of the neighbors, and Mrs. Johnson is having a party next week, and we have to go, honey, and that's how it was, and the couples in the neighborhoods would get together, and that's that was typical. I think more today, people more have interactions with coworkers. Because people, I think they're so involved in work.
In so many jobs that I've worked, it really is just a small family. And, if you're going to have a gathering with someone, it's going to be with the people that you see most often.
Right.
And a lot of the time, people don't see their family all that often. They don't see their neighbors all that often because they see their coworkers so often.
You see your coworkers typically more than anyone else in your life.
When I go to the doctor's offices, they all joke around with each other. Oh, I'm here more than I'm home.
Right.
And, making jokes about that is really, really, really upsetting because it's like, stop glamorizing capitalism!
So true.
But I
digress.
That's what it is. But I digress.
But he digresses.
I digress. So the episode does continue.
Yes.
Hold on. We took notes. We took notes
today. Maude comes down, and remember, she's like grabbing Walter and Carol and like
holding on to the long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers.
Oh, there was that joke. Yeah, everybody told that joke.
Everybody was telling that joke in the show.
Yes.
Was it really that popular?
No. Long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers.
Yes.
And yet I've only ever heard that line on the show. I've never heard that line. I've never heard that line independent of Maude.
I've heard it elsewhere.
Well, you've also been around longer than I have.
That's true. I'm older than dirt.
You're not older than dirt, you stupid.
That's true. That's another queen.
That's another.
Who shall remain nameless?
Who shall reflame nameless? Who shall remain flameless?
We don't have to worry. She doesn't listen to our show.
Oh my goodness. Who shall remain flameless? I should be paid to write sometimes. So, the long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers is a joke that was mentioned a number of times because everyone was saying how nervous Maude was about creating this party and getting everybody together, and on the invitations, clearly stating that it was not a fundraiser.
Not a fundraiser. But it really was.
But it really was. And Maude, in the beginning of the episode, states very plainly, I have already taken 2 Milltown, and I'm rapidly approaching Berserk.
Yes. And I never heard of a Milltown.
Neither have I.
It's a tranquilizer, but
I think it's a lighter tranquilizer than Valium.
I guess.
Because if you're able to take 2 and not be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs,
right,
you're able to, but I don't know. I've never heard of a Milltown.
I've never heard of a Milltown.
I've heard of Valium.
Valium was... Please, in the 70s, Valiums were like Tic Tacs.
Candy. They were like candy.
It's like, oh, you want a Valium? Here, have a Valium. Oh, you're a little stressed.
You want a Percocet? You want a Ritalin? Go right ahead. And doctors gave them away. As a matter of fact, the story that your husband told us really blew my mind.
About the diet pills.
About the diet pills. Which were meth.
Yeah. They were
methamphetamines.
Yes.
Just really, really, really wild.
Yes.
But
remember, Maude, she's like grabbing them, and Walter and Carol, she's hugging them.
She's hugging them and kissing them and being like a very sweet and adoring mother. Because Walter and Carol, for all that they're doing, they are definitely picking up a lot of the responsibilities for the party that Maude is like. Because Maude's doing all of her things, and Carol and Walter are doing things around the house like cleaning and decorating and making the house look presentable.
Yes.
And as Maude is, I have the world's sweetest husband and the world's dearest daughter. What the hell's with the floral arrangement?
Something's off with the floral arrangement.
Something's off with the floral. And Maude is just...
beside herself.
So beside herself and so frantic. And it's honestly one of those... I love B. Arthur so much. If you couldn't already tell.
No.
But But seeing her perform in such an unglued and such a so a lot of people say that Dorothy Zbornak is just Maude on some type of happy pill or some type of like mood stabilizer.
I don't agree.
Because Maude is just so flamboyant and so over the top. Like, there are some episodes where I'm like, I can't take you seriously.
Yeah.
And even in interviews, B. Arthur had said that Maude was very outrageous and very over the top and very, I think she even said, like, if Dorothy and Maude were in the same room, Dorothy would turn to Maude and be like, Maude, mellow out.
Yeah.
Just calm down.
Yes.
Which is actually an episode that's brought out. It's called Maude's Mood. We'll get to it, but it basically deals with Maude's manic depressive episodes. And I love the fact that they were able to like address that type of mental health issue on top of anxiety in the first episode and then manic depressive disorder in later episodes. I appreciate that. So
that was you could see that Maude was so different than the Dorothy character.
Very different.
Maude had, the manic depressive. It was there. She'd be like, she's hugging Walter.
She's hugging Walter and Carol 1 second, and then one thing out of place and goes absolutely berserk.
Exactly. Whereas Dorothy was sort of the stabilizing rock character in the Golden Girls.
Very much so.
It was like,
which, if comparatively speaking, that's the Carol character.
Yeah.
Carol is definitely more of like the logical thinking, rock type character that's very emotionally stable, despite having all of the pre-existing conditions that she has. But that's the type of character, and Walter is just Walter.
Yeah.
Yes. So the episode continues, and while Maude is going absolutely frantic, Florida comes in wearing a French-made outfit.
Oh, yeah.
And, I never really know how to address issues like that. Because, on the one hand, it is funny for the obvious reasons. Because you have the maid in a traditional maid's outfit. But then you add on top of that the fact that Florida is black, and it sort of takes it to a very, I don't want to say realistic level, but a very intrinsically specific area. And, especially during the 70s, jokes like that were made quite frequently. There were actually two very racially, not racially motivated? No, not racially motivated. There were several jokes that pertained to race.
Yes.
That if done in today's situational comedy world would be met with
cancel culture.
Met with a lot of scrutiny.
Yes.
We will address them. We will use kid gloves when addressing them, as we do with most of the issues that we address. So Florida enters wearing a maid's outfit, and again, Maude just continues to go insane, saying, I really question your social sensitivity. I really question, why you guys are, putting me through this right now. And unfortunately, as a plot device, the maid that was originally called to serve at the party got ptomaine poisoning at a previous party. At a previous party that the maid that was supposed to work worked. That makes sense. Logistically, that makes sense. And Carol, in her infinite wisdom, had said, Florida, if you can, please work the party.
Right.
But Maude was insistent on the fact that Florida not work the party because she doesn't want to offend a militant black leader.
She doesn't want him to know that she has a black servant.
Correct. And she doesn't want Jim Chambers to come into a house where you use black people to do the work that white people won't do.
Right.
And Walter, in the sweet, gentle Walter that he is, says, but he will be in a household, a typical middle-class household where they use black people to do the work that white people won't do.
Right.
To which Maude retorts, God will get you for that, Walter.
Yes.
And, it is very true. During the 60s and 70s, there were very few white maids.
Right.
And there were, that's just, I guess, I don't want to call it the norm during the time.
And I think the only one on TV was Hazel. Every other time there was a maid on a show, they were always someone of color. They were
always someone of color or someone of Latin heritage, and it's a plot device. It really is. Not until like later in season 2, when we get Mrs. Naugatuck, do we have a typical white servant. So we're definitely going to be with Florida for a while, and these jokes, again, are from a time when it was socially acceptable to make those jokes. Nowadays,
right.
Please don't. Please refrain.
Yes. And they got rid of the Aunt Jemima brand, didn't they?
I believe they did. You
completely get rid of it?
You can still find some of them, but the family didn't want to remove the Aunt Jemima image. I don't know. I just don't know.
Because I remember, was it last year?
It was last year. It was a big controversy where the brand Aunt Jemima wanted to rebrand themselves. They wanted to get rid of. They wanted to do away with
Aunt Jemima.
They wanted to do away with Aunt Jemima, and they wanted to do something a little bit more like maybe a log cabin, which just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah.
Or they may have done something different, but it raised a lot of red flags with people.
Yeah.
And, critical race theory is a big hot button issue.
Yes.
And there are some politicians who want to do away with it completely, have it not be taught in colleges. And, they want to teach it to younger children. And I feel that that's going to help matters.
Of course.
Because it's going to point out white privilege.
Right.
It's going to point out black history that we were not taught.
That's been whitewashed.
That's been very whitewashed, that we've not been taught in grade school.
Right.
So sorry, excuse me. And I'm very disappointed that there are politicians that are like, well, we don't need to know it. No, you do need to know about it. This is part of history. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. But Republicans, they like to make it so that you're just not educated anymore.
Right. That makes them happy.
They like you stupid, poor, and giving them all the money.
Exactly.
So that's that on that.
Yep.
The episode continues.
with Maude making a comment that she doesn't want Florida presenting a Aunt Jemima image.
Yeah, speaking of, she doesn't want Florida to represent an Aunt Jemima image. And then Florida in... just thinking back to that episode, it makes me chuckle, but she uses a very Jim Crow accent, saying, Lordy, Lordy,
right.
You want me to go shuffle off into the kitchen and mix you up another batch of flapjacks?
Right.
To which Maude retorts, a black god will get you for that, Florida.
Yes.
And, jokes like that, you just cannot get away with these days. And,
well,
go ahead.
I think if a person of color wants to use that in the way that Florida did as being sarcastic, I think that...
You think that would get a buy?
I think that's...
I guess it would depend heavily on what the network wants to do.
When the person of color is doing it to point out the hypocrisy of it.
That's true. That's very true.
And that's how it was used here.
Yeah,
that's exactly how it was used.
It was used in a very sarcastic, very acerbic way, like, "Girl, please, calm down. Just calm down, please. Yeah. You're making a spectacle of yourself."
It would not fly for a Caucasian person.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I mean, obviously, don't make jokes that you're not supposed to make.
Right.
We've had multiple conversations about context.
Yes.
Had multiple conversations about context. It really is all in the way that the joke is presented.
Right.
It's very much in the way that the actors are acting that joke out. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it landed. Like the joke landed. The joke landed. And that's
Florida was making a point that she was anything but an Aunt Jemima.
Correct.
So
she even says, I have 3 black kids, and I have a husband who's a fireman, and together they're raising a family.
Right.
And if there's anything Aunt Jemima in that, she'll eat it.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So Maude, in an impassioned plea, says, I'll pay you not to work.
Not to work.
Which, honestly,
I could get that gig.
I wish we could get that gig. Honestly.
Please pay us not to do this show.
Pay us not to do
No. We're still going to do it.
We'll still do it anyway, but pay us.
But pay us.
Pay us, please and thank you.
We'll leave our PayPal info in the comments section.
So, the episode continues, and
Maude's going on about how she has to raise $15,000
for Jim Chambers.
For Jim Chambers at this party.
Yes.
That the guests do not know is a fundraising party.
Yeah, and she was mentioning the guest list. The William Ferguson, the William Kennys.
Yes.
The something Fergusons. And how these are very, again, well-to-do, white, upper-middle-class individuals who donate money to liberal organizations.
Right.
So you would imagine that they would be all for what this party's going to be about.
Exactly.
But that's not exactly how it works.
No,
we're going to get to that.
Oh, yes.
Very soon.
Oh, yes.
So after Florida goes and takes off her maid's outfit, saying that I think
she's like fine.
Black on black is worse than white on white.
Yes.
And then after that happens, Arthur enters.
Yes.
And we all know how Arthur behaves when it comes to liberal democratic ideals and ideations. He is very much against it. He's very much a Republican's Republican. And, she wants to raise $15,000 for Jim Chambers, and Arthur's like, are you mad? Are you insane? But there is a reason as to why Arthur is there. He's checking up on Maude because he gave her the 2 Milltown, didn't he?
Milltown.
Gave her the 2 Milltown, and I think also was going to give her a Valium.
A Valium.
So, pills are being distributed left, right, sideways, and it's just part of the drama.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's so crazy because you would never see that in a sitcom today.
I mean, in the 70s, it was much easier to fill a prescription for a pill than it is today.
Oh, yeah.
Because today you have, people who will take something with, oh God, why can't I think about it? You work in CVS for so long, you think you remember these things.
Well, it's like you can't even buy some of the
decongestants. Some of the decongestants because they have, what is that one specific ingredient?
Oh, I forget the ingredient.
Methylphenate?
That they can use to make methamphetamine.
Yep. That's correct.
It was like,
there were times that, because I worked because I worked in CVS, there were times when you would need to give us your license.
The license, yes.
And you would get checked.
Yes.
They would check you in the system to see how many times you've been in there to buy, who, is connected to that specific license.
Because I had bought, a 30-day supply.
Yeah.
I had to show my license to get it. And I used up the 30-day supply. And I wanted to get, I was still having really bad allergies, wanted to get another batch. And they said, oh no, you can't get any. I bought a 30-day supply and it was over 30 days and I still couldn't get another batch. I was like, I'm not using this to make meth,
you're not using it to make crank.
I just can't breathe.
It
was unbelievable.
But I guess it reached that point where the pharmacies were like, we have to do something about this. Or doctors reached a point where they're like, we have to do something about this. People are obviously getting sniff, swig, puff, and your cares are gone.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's gotten to that point.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a drug crisis because... Nixon. Oh, Nixon and Reagan. They're the reasons why we have a drug problem. And anybody that says otherwise, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's that simple.
Well, isn't it nice to see that, many of these marijuana misdemeanors
are going to be wiped clean
from people's
Yeah.
records. I mean,
I appreciate so much that marijuana is becoming a legalized drug in society. I'm really, really, really grateful for that because there's a lot of people that just it serves a multitude of purposes.
Yes.
It serves a multitude of purposes. It helps with glaucoma. It helps with cancer treatment.
my mother, when she was in the last few months, she passed away from ovarian cancer.
Yeah.
The only way she was able to eat was and she was really so weak. My stepfather, he would like inhale some of the joint, and blow it into her, her mouth.
She shotgun off of them,
and that was the only way that she would get any sort of an appetite, that she was able to keep anything down.
They're trying to make it so that drugs that people are on, they're making it easier for people to get weaned off the drugs that they're on. Marijuana obviously is going to become a legalized drug. It's going to become the law of the land. And there are drug companies and there are rehabilitation centers that are trying to get it so that you can get clean drugs to wean a person off of their addiction. And I think that's brilliant that there are rehabilitation centers that are even thinking of doing that. If I'm not mistaken, I remember reading that there were rehabilitation centers doing that with heroin, doing it with hallucinogenics, and I think also doing it with coke. But doing it in a way where it's a controlled atmosphere, where there's no way that you could potentially get it from anywhere else, and just managing it that way, drug management. I love the fact that there is these soon-to-be drug management programs.
Now, personally, I don't like marijuana.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with somebody that wants to use it.
Yep, same.
But for me personally, I don't like the smell. I've tried it.
It's very overpowering.
I don't like it makes my throat very scratchy.
And we're singers.
And I'm
we're singers. We use our voices constantly. I mean, obviously. And it sort of takes you out of things for a little bit because it dries you out.
I just never cared for me. It's like, if anything, once in a while I have a cocktail. And I like my girly drinks, like an amaretto sour, a cosmopolitan.
An amaretto sour.
Yes, and I love amaretto sours. I have amaretto. I have sour mix.
I'm an old woman. I drink Manhattan cocktails. I drink Harvey Wallbangers.
Those are good.
And I drink Top Shelf because, of course, I do.
Of course you do. We're refined ladies.
We're refined ladies of the evening. But actually, it's funny that we mention alcohol because that does, in fact, make matters much worse for Maude later in the show.
Yes.
So let's see. Speaking of alcohol here, okay. I adored Carol's outfit throughout the entire
the green dress,
that
green
green
gown.
Tunic dress.
I liked
what
it.
a beautiful outfit.
Yes.
And she had that perfect figure for her.
She did. Now, Maude gets a phone call.
Maude gets a phone call from Marcellus Jackson, I think.
I forget.
Marcellus Jackson. They're the only black guests that were invited to the party.
Yes.
And they say they can't
come.
And Maude delivers in such a delicious way. She screams at the top of the lungs, chaos!
Yes. Now, here's the thing.
Yes.
Maude, she's, always, portraying herself as this
domineering, very proud, liberal
person, but she only knows
one black couple.
So there's that sort of hypocrisy of Maude. It's like, it's like, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to be this, this injustice modern fighter and breaking down the walls of the establishment.
Social justice warrior.
And social justice warrior, and she only knows one black couple.
Yeah. It's really one of those things that, and we've mentioned this in previous episodes, it's what makes Maude human.
Yes.
It definitely is part of the reasons why Maude is such a human character, because I can see somebody being this, militant liberal about social justice and social equality for the races and civil justice for all, but only knowing two people.
Right.
Of that specific
of color.
Minority, of that specific marginalized group.
Yep. And now Walt, I know he made a joke and he used the term Orientals.
He did use the term Orientals. And that is, I want to say that's the last time that we want to use that term.
Yes.
So
because that term should only be used when applied to rugs or vases, not people.
Not people.
People are not Oriental. Your carpet, your rug, your vases.
What makes the joke that much worse is the way that the joke was presented.
Mm-hmm.
So Maude hangs up the phone, goes crazy, and Carol, of course, is being reasonable and understanding. These are obviously not your average guests. They're
right.
black. And Walter goes, you should always have a backup black. And Maude goes, God, if you really do exist, get him soon. To which Carol replies, I think Carol says something to the effect of, try the yellow pages.
Is that what she said?
Carol says, try the yellow pages,
okay.
and that's when Walter uses the aforementioned comment. Like,
okay.
I thought they were only for that specific group of people. And Maude says, hurry, hurry!
Yeah.
And it's just really one of those jokes that you hear it, and you go, ew.
Yeah, that one was cringy.
That one was a very, very cringeworthy
Very
joke.
cringy, yes.
And, you know, we're living in a world that does have a lot of AAPI, American Asian, Pacific Islander hatred.
Yes.
And, you know...
Especially in this area.
Oh, yeah, especially in this era.
And in this area, like in New York City,
there's
it's like every day we're seeing, like, hate crimes against Asian American Pacific Islander people.
That's correct.
It's like... It's horrible.
It's upsetting.
And like, they're just like, you see, they've got like live video footage. Somebody's just walking down the street and somebody just walks up to them and like
punches
them, knocks them out cold, and it's
horrible.
horrible.
For the first couple of months after when the pandemic started, there were so many people, especially in my family, that would not eat Chinese food.
Yes.
Isn't that
disgusting? I know that, yes. Yeah. I actually made a point, like, on social media of, like, you know, because we get it all the time, and I had no problem and I'd say, oh, here we've got our sweet and sour chicken and our egg foo young, and we're enjoying it, and there you go. And the, you know, like, the restaurant right up the street. I'm not going to say their name because they're not sponsoring us yet. But you know which one I'm talking about.
I do.
I mean, they set up a whole thing with plastic barriers, and they had the antiseptic hand sanitizer. When
hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer. Yes. To be very, you know, socially distanced and very, very careful. They were only letting so many people. You had to go in a mask, and they were only let so many people in at a time to get the order. So I had no problems, and everybody working had a mask on, even though they were cooking in a hot kitchen.
They handled it as best they could.
Yeah, so I had no problem.
It's really unfortunate that they had to handle it at all.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you have a leader who says stupid stuff.
Yeah. But But I had no problem whatsoever, like, with getting a Chinese takeout.
Neither did I.
I enjoyed it.
There were times when I really was just like, I'm hankering for it, and I just want it. Can we just have it, please?
Yeah, have it again.
So that is our feelings on that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just not the greatest of jokes to make. Just very, very, very of the time, very in poor taste.
So Maude calls up. I forget who they were.
She calls her friend Diane. She calls her friend Diane
because she knows. Because she goes on this whole thing about Walter. Who was that black couple who was at that other
benefit breakfast that we had?
Yes,
that we were guests at.
And Walter was like, they were black. They're short,
fat, black, and
boring. And, you know...
And then, I mean, Maude obviously, like, glowers at him. Like, why saying this stupid stuff? And he goes, Maude, just because a couple's black doesn't mean they can't be boring.
Which is true.
It's very true.
Boring applies across the board.
Yes.
It knows no...
it doesn't discriminate.
Prejudice.
There's no prejudice.
There's no prejudice in boring. So, he did have a valid point.
So she calls her friend
But
Diane.
Maude needs them.
Yes, Maude does need them
Maude needs them.
to appease the gods.
Yes.
And
She calls her friend
She
Diane
calls her
because she
friend
knows her
Diane.
friend. They were friends of her friend Diane.
yes. So Diane says, "Could you and your husband come
Maud
to the party?"
asked.
Maud is asking
Invites
Diane.
Diane.
Yes, Maud invites Diane. Can you come to the party? And you can.
Yeah,
Great.
great.
Would you mind also bringing that charming black couple that you know? And Diane catches Maud in her little lie.
Yes.
Because Diane says,
In her hypocrisy.
In her hypocrisy.
She realizes Maud doesn't really want Diane. She wants Diane's black couple friend.
yeah, well, Diane, how could you say such a thing? Diane, what a terrible thing to say. And then Maud hangs up the
Yes.
phone. Carol goes, or was it Walter who said, what did she say?
Either one. I don't
I think
remember.
it was one of them.
One of
and
them.
then Maud goes, she said to just call the black couple.
Yeah. She can't because she doesn't
She
even
can't
remember their
doesn't even
names.
remember their names or
She
what their
doesn't
phone
really.
number
She doesn't
was.
really know them.
So,
So that's at that what is going on. That I need a black person here at the party. And that's when Florida is
Florida,
Comes
as
out
if
of
on cue,
As if
in a
on cue.
situational comedy, as if on
is
cue.
walking out to leave.
Miss Finley, I'm leaving now. And really, just the brilliance of this show is
Because nothing's
there's
said.
no dialogue.
There's no dialogue.
It's all camera. It's all editing. It's all facial
Reaction.
expressions.
Yeah.
Florida does a slow burn turn.
She can
saying-
feel the
She
the
can
eyes
feel
of the three of
the
them
eyes of them
on the back of her head as she approaches the door.
And she turns around, and Carol and Walter are looking at Florida. Maud is looking at Florida, closes one eye, and it's it's a slow zoom into Maud's face, and it's just
Hilarious.
so funny.
It's so hilarious.
It's really one of those brilliant things that you just sometimes don't get in modern sitcoms.
No.
Like, you don't get a slow burn moment.
No.
You don't get that sort of edited scene where you have one action happening and then it jumps to another action happening and they're both equally dynamic and equally funny.
It was actually very theatrical.
Very theatrical.
You don't see that in today's sitcoms. Today's sitcoms are...
I mean, a lot of situational comedies years ago were based sort of in that,
yeah.
like, theater
Mhm.
play situation.
Yeah.
And one of those moments where I'm just like, mwah, chef's kiss.
Yes.
It was so brilliant.
Mhm.
So then we cut to commercial and then we come back.
And the party's in
And the
full
party's
swing.
in full swing.
Mhm.
Everything is going off without a hitch.
Mhm.
The Fergusons and the William Kennys have not yet arrived.
Right.
But Arthur's there. There's a ton of guests. They're all complimenting Maud on how wonderful the party is and how she's doing a great job and how she has absolutely nothing to... There's nothing that Maud really needs to worry about because
Right.
all of her parties are just done so flawlessly and so fabulously.
Right.
And then as soon as that guest turns away, Maud immediately goes over to Arthur and asks for a Valium.
For a Valium. Oh my God.
Just immediately rushes up, Arthur, I need the Valium.
And he's like, well, you already had 2
And
Milltowns.
you already just had 2 Milltowns. That would be way too much.
Yeah.
That'd be too much.
Yeah.
And also, this outfit that Maud wears
Oh, the
is
purple.
one of my absolute favorites. It's this gorgeous purple gown, floor-length gown, with a purple scarf and a purple robe over it. Just very elegant, very Maud.
And everybody was dressed to the nines. I mean,
Yes, this was a very big social event.
well, you don't see that nowadays when
Not at all.
people come over.
They're in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah, if that. I mean, it was like, but that was typical of
It was
Of
very
that
typical
time.
of that time period where you would
Yeah.
just, I mean, if you weren't talking about the fashions, you were talking about who did what to whom at the party.
yes,
Or you were talking about the food that was served.
right.
Like, you would go to these events, and it would just be that. It would be a big social gathering. Everybody would be talking to everybody. There'd be cigarette smoke everywhere, and
Right.
drinks
Drinking.
everywhere. And,
Yeah.
and everyone would be having a marvelous, marvelous time. And the outfits were sometimes the only reason. There were even parties for people who would get a hat.
Yeah,
Like, if somebody got a new hat, or if somebody got a new sewing machine, or if somebody got a new car, there'd be a social event to
Yeah.
break in the new materials.
yes.
Not like that anymore.
No,
Nope, now you get likes on Facebook.
Yes. If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. Did I like your last thing?
I don't know.
I don't know if
I
did.
have no idea. Does it matter at this point?
I don't know.
Time has already passed. We can no longer recapture.
By the way, like us on Facebook
Like
at
us on Facebook at
God'll Get You for That, Walter.
and Instagram at Findley's Friendly Appliances.
Yes. Did
So
we just plug ourselves?
we did just plug ourselves
Oh my-
on our own.
Oh my
show.
goodness! I can't believe it.
We
And it was
become so bougie.
It was so subtle too.
The most.
It was the height of subtlety.
the most. I mean, are either of us really subtle?
I don't think so.
I think
I pray to God
the
we're not.
only time you use subtle and Toni Homeperm and Tomcat in the same sentence is
No.
Toni Homeperm and Tomcat are not subtle.
They're not subtle. So
So the episode continues. Maude ends up getting a
well, Arthur ends up letting her take the 5 milligrams, which
the
she
5
wants.
milligrams of Valium.
She wanted to take it with a drink.
She wanted to take it with an alcoholic beverage.
She wanted to,
and
knock it down with a
one
drink.
thing you don't do at all is you mix alcohol with pills.
Yeah,
You
no.
just don't do
You're-
that.
yeah, no,
You're
it's-
asking for trouble.
asking for trouble. And in all seriousness, it's very dangerous.
Very dangerous. There are people
It's
that have
very
died
dangerous.
because of that.
Of course,
concoction.
yeah,
there are people that have
absolutely.
died because of doing that.
Absolutely.
Whether it's, you even see with celebrities nowadays, like where
Yes.
they'll mix their pills that they're taking with alcohol, and it's just a diabolical concoction. So please, if you're going to drink responsibly, and if you're going to take medication, please be medicated under a licensed practitioner.
Yes, please. That's been our recommended.
That's
warning.
that's our good Boy Scout deed for the day.
Yes.
We are the Girl Scouts of America.
All right. So now the Fergusons and the William Kennys show up at the door.
Yes, they do.
Which is important because they donated $5,000 to Julius
LaRosa.
Yes.
They donated the $5,000 to Julius LaRosa.
So Maude knows they've got deep pockets.
Yes, they do.
And she wants them to reach.
And she wants
deep
to
into
reach
those
deep into
pockets.
those pockets. So Maude ends up turning to Walter, saying, "These are the William Kennys, and they are loaded."
Because the everything is now starting to take effect big time.
Yep.
As far as the pills and
As far as the pills and the booze, they're going to meet eventually, friends.
Yes.
Don't you worry.
Yes.
So
And I think this is about when Florida makes her entrance down the stairs.
When did she make the entrance? Did she make it before or after?
I thought it was after that. And yes, because then Maude introduces her as Mrs. What was the name?
Florida Dubonnet.
Dubonnet.
Mrs. Florida Dubonnet.
Florida Dubonnet. And Florida comes down with a turban on.
She came down in this. It was a really very attractive gown.
Yes.
It was
yellow.
It was a yellow
Sort of marigold.
It was a yellow marigold dress with a green wrap and a brown turban.
Was it more orange?
A burnt orange.
Burnt
orange, like light brown.
Yes. It was
very
nice.
attractive on
Yeah.
her. Very attractive on her. Gorgeous earrings,
Yeah.
like very tasteful jewelry.
Yeah.
And she walked down the stairs
Like
very
she owned
much
the
like
place.
She owned the place. And
Which is what Maude wanted her to do.
Exactly, which is exactly what Maude had intended her to do.
Yes.
I'm now looking at my notes, and this is where they get all kerbobbled. So,
Well, and now Maude wants to make an announcement, remember?
she does want to make an
party
announcement,
goers.
but even before that, she says, I think it was after Florida came down, and it was, I think, right after the William Kennys and the Fergusons got there, she goes over to the bar, unsupervised.
Yes.
No one watches her go over
Right.
to the bar, and she tries to make herself a tumbler of scotch with some seltzer water.
Yes.
She ends up missing the glass completely, and
Of the seltzer.
Of the seltzer.
And just has the scotch.
Just has the scotch in her hand, and she downs.
She knocks back that whole glass.
Literally drinks the entire thing in one go.
And
Good for her.
hands it to Walter.
Hands it to Walter, who then looks at Arthur and says, Arthur, Maude just drank a tumbler of scotch.
Yeah.
With all the pills going on in her system, what'll happen?
Yeah.
Arthur goes with Maude, anything.
And he's right.
And he's 100% right.
He's right.
And this is where, to me, Maude shines.
Yes.
So she makes an announcement saying, Jim Chambers is going to be here soon, And she starts to get a little loopy.
Yes.
She starts to say, and now, ladies and gentlemen, my rendition of Rodgers and Hammerstein's immortal South Pacific, Some Enchanted Evening. And she sings it so loud and so proud, and she's singing to a full room of people,
Right.
just completely and totally out of her skull. And Walter runs up to her, grabs her, holds her tight, says, announcement! Announcement! Because now Walter needs to do what Walter does best, which
Corral
is
Maude.
corral Maude and, like, hold on to her and make sure that she doesn't do anything stupid.
Right.
Which, she's on her way there.
She's already there.
She's already there.
She's already there.
So, Maude turns to Walter in her very drunken, pilled-up stupor. You interrupted my speech to the ensemble. And, you know, just watching the interaction between a very trying to stabilize his wife, Walter, and Maude just being Maude. It really does tickle your funny bone. Like, the way that it's performed, all things to the side, when you take out the booze and you take out the pills and you have it be a husband and wife, it really is very touching that, like, Walter's like, I should have watched my wife, but I didn't, and now we're all paying for it.
Of course.
So, Jim Chambers is on his way. The phone call is, like, I think Maude was on the phone with Jim Chambers' aide.
Jim Chambers' aide.
Jim Chambers' aide saying he's going to be here in less than 12 minutes. And just constantly, like, 12, 10, 5, he's here. And just the constant slow decline of the evening. Because once Maude drinks the tumbler, it's like the entire mood in the room shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And
then what Maude is talking about his book.
Give Us Colorado.
Give Us Colorado, yes.
Give Us Colorado. Arthur feels it is now his turn to take the focus off of Maude and put the focus on him.
Yes.
Where he mentions the book, Give Us Colorado, which I don't know if that's a real book. I'm pretty sure it's a real book.
Is it? I don't know.
I'm not 100%. Hold on.
We'll have to find
Vamp.
out.
Vamp.
Okay.
Vamp.
Da 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 da.
You're not vamping.
Please go into our concession stand and have one of our lovely treats. I need, like, the dancing...
The dancing hot dog, the dancing
dog,
popcorn.
and popcorn.
So, it is appearing that Give Us Colorado is just something that does not exist.
They just made it up. But
So,
the premise of the
book is that Jim Chambers wants the entire black community to be given the state of Colorado.
Yes.
And it, again, just very in poor taste jokes made.
Yeah.
Mr. William Kenny says, well, the hell with them. Blacks don't ski.
Yeah.
Just very ignorant, but also very of the time. Not even the fact that it's an of the time joke, but the fact that it was a white, liberal-minded individual making such a ignorant, classless comment on an entire community of people just really, again, shows the hypocrisy that Norman Lear was always trying to show within his shows.
Right.
He was always trying to show that mindset of, you're never going to get a perfect human being because there is no such thing as a perfect human being unless you're the two of us.
Exactly.
And even then, sometimes it's questionable.
Sometimes.
I've seen your gowns. And you've seen my pantsuits.
And I've seen your pantsuit.
So, it really is one of those brilliant things about the show, and about all of Norman Lear's shows, that he just shows very human characters.
Right.
There's not very many, like, yes, Maude taking the pills, getting up on her, getting to the top of the staircase and singing Some Enchanted Evening, just losing her cookies everywhere. But
it was a human thing.
It was a very human thing.
Who among us hasn't, like, had too much to drink or something like that?
Yes.
On occasion, and
100%. And gotten too loose and done stupid stuff.
May have drunk texted someone. Or
all right, if you're going to at me, at least let me know before you do that, thank you. I need to be better prepared for these things. So what if I messaged my ex? Who cares? It was a delicious margarita, damn it. So it really is, again, one of the beautiful things that I love about Maude and I love about Norman Lear's shows. He will take these of-the-time issues and he will make them human.
yes,
He'll make it very human, very realistic. And, again, I just put Maude on a streaming service already, please. Hulu, get your act together.
yeah, really.
Now,
Arthur wants to call out.
Arthur calls out, after Arthur calls out, give us Colorado, he then turns to Florida.
Yes.
Because Arthur obviously knows that Florida is Maude's maid.
Yeah.
And did you notice, again, one of the things that I love most about the acting in this, did you see Adrienne Barbeau react to that?
No, I wasn't paying attention to that.
Yes, she reacts to Arthur like, are you really going to do that right now?
Oh.
Like, she literally gives him that look like, Arthur, what are you doing? Don't say anything!
Jeez.
And Arthur calls out, like, who is Florida? And then Maude, because at that point, Arthur being a white male of status and of privilege, everyone's going to turn their attention to him.
Right.
So, because of doing that, Maude says, you really want to know? You really want to know?
You really want to know?
Who is Mrs. Dubonnet? I have an even better question for you, Arthur Harmon. Who is you? Who is any of us?
Well, she starts singing it.
Sylvia.
It was Sylvia. Don't kill yourself.
I promise nothing. But just such a funny moment. And when you get to mix serious conversations with humor, you make a really beautiful potion. And again, I cannot speak glowingly enough about this show just because of the amount of human qualities about it. Leave me alone and let me talk fun about this. I want to love this show, damn it.
Now they start. Maude starts saying that Mrs. Dubonnet
is a visitor from a far off country?
Something, yeah, or
land. Hold on, a far off. I have it written down somewhere. Nope, that's not it. New emerging black community.
A new and emerging black community.
A new and emerging, to which Florida says, yeah, Harlem. Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Just, again, the writing on this show is so good.
Yes.
So good. Dated, but good.
Dated. But I have to say, the character of Florida was so well
astute.
Written. And
so well written.
Yeah.
So very intelligent. Yeah. Like, years ago you would have Hattie McDaniel as a maid.
Yeah.
You would have, I'm trying to think of another very famous black maid character, and like the only ones that come to mind are from Mae West movies. But that was also because Mae West wanted to hire black actresses and black actors for
and
the
that
shows.
was all they would let her.
That's all they would let her do.
Let them be portrayed.
She would not let them be portrayed as like competition for her. She would not have them be portrayed as like anything other than a minstrel show type or a maid. And it's just. See how far we've come? Like in the 30s, they were maids. In the 70s, they were maids. And then after that, that was when everyone started to understand that that is a negative, nasty stereotype.
Right.
So that's how we ended up with the Jeffersons and Good Times and 221 and Living Single and just What's Happening even.
Yeah.
Like What's Happening didn't have any like specific maid characters in it.
Yeah, I don't believe so. The thing with Florida though was she, even though she was working in a job that was stereotypical,
it was still a job.
It was to her. She was like, listen, I need to earn a living. I
have a family to support.
Yeah, it was logical.
Yes,
it was logical, and she was like, yeah, I may be a maid, but I'm not like being oppressed. I'm doing this because I'm choosing to do this. because I need to
As
work.
a matter of fact, Florida made a very astute observation towards the end of the episode, where Arthur actually asks her, do you think that what Jim Chambers is trying to do is of noble quality? Or, I'm trying to remember what he says specifically, but Florida comes back with that saying, well, maybe so, but he's not going to come to any realizations at a white cocktail party.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
that's, like, again, a brilliantly well-written character.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Esther Roll played her so famously.
And she was 100% right.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as the episode progresses, Maude ends up becoming a little loose-lipped.
Yes.
Where she says, I mean, obviously Jim Chambers isn't going to find anything happening at a white cocktail party, but it's still a cocktail party for him, where it's a fundraising party.
And that was all
anybody needed to hear.
Especially
Because
the William Kennys.
Fergusons and the William Kennys say, fundraising
party.
Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Nothing in my invitation said anything about a fundraising party.
Right.
And again, Maude continues to be loose-lipped Maude and very aggressive, saying, come off it. With your personality, why would you be invited anywhere else but to a fundraising party?
Nobody's inviting you to anything for any other reason than
to just have your pockets pinched.
Yeah.
So, at that moment, everyone starts to leave.
Everyone leaves.
And Maude calls out Arthur saying, this is all your fault. It's all because of you. And then Arthur, probably one of the better lines that he's had in the entire episode was, 3 things ruined your party. Your deceit, your lies, and your singing.
And you're singing. Oh. That was a low blow.
That was a very low blow.
That was a low blow.
And there was actually a joke in a later episode where I think Maude was talking to Walter saying they kicked me out of choir when she was in Catholic school, and he said, "Why did they kick you out of the choir?" And she goes, "Because I was singing." So everyone leaves, and then of course, as everyone's leaving, Mr. Jim Chambers shows up and says, "Walter, he's here. What do I do? What do I do?" Because Carol went to go drive Florida home.
So she's gone.
Walter was going up to bed. The entire party is gone. So Maude does what Maude does best. Chugged one back, threw the glass. I love the fact that it shattered.
Yes.
Like, she just threw the glass
and
it
it
shattered
breaks.
everywhere.
You hear it.
And it was one of those moments where I'm just like, yup, she's doing her best. She's doing what she's got to do. Goes to the front door, opens it to Mr. Jim Chambers and said, "Welcome to an evening with Maude." And then it cuts to black.
That's all he was getting.
That's all he was getting.
It was an evening with
just
Maude.
an evening with Maude. But it wasn't an unsuccessful evening for either of them.
Very true.
Maude, the next day, I think she was reading the paper. Walter comes downstairs and they have a quiet little chit-chat. Where Maude says, it was a very wonderful conversation. Jim Chambers and Maude definitely had some ideas that they didn't necessarily agree upon. But it was a marvelous evening where 2 people had a conversation. And Mr. Jim Chambers walked away with a tidy sum of $1,000.
$1,000.
To which he got from Walter's wallet.
Yes!
And it ends again with just a moment where she goes, yeah, Jim Chambers raised $1,000. And there's no dialogue, but it's all facial expressions. Walter, his eyes widen, his mouth opens, and Maude is just like, yup, I got your money.
Yep.
But another thing worth noting, I think this was one of the first series that dealt with periods.
Yes.
During the party, there was
a woman came up to Maude and she
whispers in her ear
something to her.
And Maude says, "Isn't it always the way?"
Yeah.
You wait for like upstairs in the bathroom, bottom cabinet.
Right.
She goes, "Isn't it always the way?"
Yeah.
You wait for it, and then it happens right in the middle of the party.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was only one of the first times they ever to mention a period.
Yes.
To mention any part of the menstrual cycle during a sitcom in the 70s. Like, that's very, very,
Well, this is very typical Norman Lear, because All in the Family was, like, the first series where you heard the toilet flush.
Yeah.
Up until that point, people in sitcoms,
there was no toilet flushing.
They never went
because
to the bathroom.
Of potty humor.
They never went to the bathroom.
So, that was When I saw that moment, I'm like, wow, they mentioned a period.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. And I think that was honestly, like, on top of the other issues and episodes that came out of Maude, I think it was after the first season, they had to present each script to the network censors.
I'm sure.
Each script to the network censors.
Because Norman Lear liked to push it.
Of course.
He liked to push
Norman
it.
Lear loved to do that.
Yeah.
And it was again, I'm going to mention Mae West, because Mae West had to do the same thing back in the 40s. Back in the 30s, where she would actually intentionally put double entendres and saucy dialogue, just so that they might miss some of the other bits of dialogue.
Right.
So just that's...
Yeah. And sometimes they would put certain things in that they knew would definitely get cut, just so something
else could get
left in.
Yeah.
I remember reading about that.
When we get to Walter's heart attack, I have a funny story about that.
Oh, goody. And there was another recurring thing. I forget when it happened, but it's a recurring thing where Maude answers the phone, and she's like, "No, this isn't Mr. Findlay.
It's Mrs. Findlay.
Mr. Findlay has a mustache." But that was always a recurring thing. Because
it was a recurring thing. They actually continued doing that, I want to say, well into the end of the series, where they would just utilize the fact that Maude had a very deep basso profundo voice.
And every time she answered the phone, somebody thought she was Mr. Findlay.
Even, I think, Walter in another episode, calls a number thinking that it was Maude, and he goes, "Hi, honey. Sorry, fella."
Oh.
But yeah, that was it. And there was also that one older gentleman who was like constantly looking for the bathroom. I never got that
I didn't get that joke.
Where he was constantly looking for the bathroom, and Maude was like just completely ignoring him.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the significance of it. I guess it was just a gag.
I guess, or she never actually tells him where the bathroom is.
But he finds it.
Yeah, and I guess it's supposed to be
evidence of how loopy she was from the drugs and the alcohol that. She never actually, you're looking for the bathroom, and then it, turns away.
Yep.
And, never actually tells him where the bathroom is.
So,
exactly.
I guess that was the point of that.
It was a gag. It was there.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Not every gag.
They can't all be gems.
They
can't all be gems.
They can't all be knee slappers.
They can't all be knee slappers.
Yes.
But we can be knee slappers.
Well, and we are.
We are knee slappers.
We are knee slappers in our own minds.
In our own minds.
No one gets the joke, but our joke's better than us.
That's right. You'll get these jokes later and you'll laugh. You'll laugh.
They'll practically pee their pants.
Get your Depends ready, friends.
They're not sponsoring for us.
They're not sponsoring.
So they can only get adult diapers. They can't get a specific brand. Unless they want to sponsor us, then by all means we can.
I mean, I would have no problem being sponsored.
I'll take that adult diaper money.
That adult diaper money. I will take it and I will run with it, friends.
We'll even model them if we. I'll just wear petticoats over them.
That's right. Just wear the petticoats over it. I'll have to make sure to make my pantsuits a little bit wider in the hips.
Yeah, so it'll say, "We're wearing our Depends." And you can't even tell.
Speak for yourself. I'll wear poise. You can wear Depends.
Which one of us gets to be June Allison?
Oh my God!
I may have killed her.
May have killed her. But thank you, friends, for joining us on another marvelous episode of
This was a great one.
That episode. What a great episode.
It was.
What a quality episode. We're too good for each other.
I know.
We're so good. We're so funny. So catty.
I can't believe it.
If you would like to follow me, you can on my newly uploaded website, thattomcat.com. And you can follow me on social media at thattomcat on all forms of social media. And if you would like to follow this gorgeous hunk of woman next to me, you can at
Hunka. Toni Homeperm. That's Toni Homeperm with an I.com.
Toni with an I.
Toni with an I. And of course, Facebook. God will get you for that,
Walter. Instagram, Finley's Friendly Appliances. If you have any comments or if you want to email us, you can at finleysfriendlyappliances@gmail.com. And we will see you on another episode.
Well, we won't actually see them.
We won't actually see them.
Well, they'll hear
you
us.
always say that and it always catches me off guard.
They'll hear us.
You will hear us.
Yes.
You will hear the dulcet tones of our voice on another marvelous, miraculous episode of
God will get you for that, Walter.